Greetings everyone, welcome back to Blade Bias. Today I have spent my time with the Bandage Knives Gauze, and I am very impressed. Full disclosure, Bandage did send this thing out for the purpose of these videos, but this is not mine to keep. I will be sending it off to the next person in the pass around once I'm done with this video. However, it's worth noting that Bandage did give me a Stitch V2, so if that affects how you're going to see my opinions for the rest of the video, there it is, laid bare. But any and all opinions presented are my own, not influenced by Bandage in any way. I really like the gauze, especially from a designer whose primary experience is making more high-tier designs. This being his first attempt at designing a more budget-oriented balisong for release, it's incredible. I love how this thing flips. The gauze has a level of consistency and fun. It balances those two things very, very well. For me, consistency is a little bit of handle bias to keep things predictable, to keep things, rotating around my fingers in a predictable manner in the way that I expect. And a little bit of fun comes from fanning and choker fanning performance. I love when balisongs have a little bit of blade weight so I can really rip them in the choker fan. It just feels awesome. And the gauze balances those two things in a way, I know people are going to hate this, that I haven't really felt since the Prisma Pro. Now, this is not my Prisma Pro replacement that I've been searching for. Coming in at around $230, it is way too expensive for that. And that's not a dig at Bandage. That's kind of more a commentary on how aggressively cheap the Prisma Pro was. And this, I'm really not expecting to be a Prisma Pro replacement, but I use the Prisma Pro as an example of another balisong that balanced fun and consistency in a way that I hadn't felt before. And while it's a little bit more common to feel that in balisongs these days, most notably recently the cheese has been an amazing combo of those things for me. The gauze has just been amazing to flip. I really like it. I don't think it's going to knock the socks off of some more skilled flippers, but if you're looking for something that is consistent while still maintaining a level of fun, this is your balisong, especially for a $230, I believe, live blade aluminum balisong. It's not the worst price in the world. The thing with the gauze is that it makes a lot of decisions that I see as kind of a flip-flop on both positive and negative. It makes a choice, which has some negatives for me, but ultimately has some positives that outweigh it. And because of that, it ends up being a very enjoyable balisong, but not a perfect one. And no balisong is truly perfect. That's not really what I'm expecting. There's just a lot of things about the gauze that you stop and you think about and you go, huh. And then you think, okay, it flips good. I don't really care too much. But that's kind of what I want to take you through in this video. For example, the aluminum on this. 70-75 aluminum, but it doesn't feel like it. I think the finishing will ultimately be different on the production model, but this is a kind of sticky aluminum. It feels almost like titanium. I genuinely believe if you told me to close my eyes, you came up to me, you handed it to me, I would guess that this was titanium. It has a stickiness that aluminum just kind of doesn't have, but titanium usually does. And every time I drop this thing, I have to do a double take and go, oh, it's fine, it's titanium. Oh, wait, no, it isn't. And that's kind of one of those things where it's you don't get the durability of titanium, but you kind of get the feeling of it, which is a positive for grip, especially on a balisong that is so minimalistic. But it's also kind of a negative because people who like the more slick aluminum feel aren't going to get that here, if there are people who really like that. Another example is the shape of the handles. You'll notice that the sides are flat and the handle faces, while typically you'll see a balisong that's either flat or kind of bows out a little bit. This is concave. It goes in, and that means that the whole handle has this divot along it, which when you first flip it feels a little bit weird, especially fans and choker fans can feel very strange. That's a negative. But a positive is that it makes the grip kind of awesome. Another positive and negative is the minimalism of this all. It's a very, very simple handle face. There's nothing going on except the X's here, and the X's really aren't here for grip. If I wanted something for grip, I would put it further down the handle or maybe further up the handle for like rollovers or things like that. But it being in the middle there, especially kind of down in the middle of this canyon on the handle's faces, means that it isn't really doing a lot for grip. It kind of just exists there as a way to break up this extremely minimalistic handle profile, and I think it does it well. But getting back to the handle shape, it's a negative because it's a little bit weird. Why would it be a positive? It's a positive for the grip. The grip on this thing is kind of awesome because of the shape of the handles, the positioning of the jimping, the speed channel, and these concave faces. Basically, no matter where your finger is on the balisong, you will be touching some sort of edge that you can use for leverage to generate momentum. And it freaking rocks. It's kind of awesome. I have seen balisongs that do this on the sides of the handle. So they have this divot that goes down the whole side. And I've never really liked those because there isn't a ton of times where I'm using something like that I couldn't have gotten the same thing out of like a speed channel or something. And usually it messes up jimping. And a design like this isn't meant for jimping because, you know, if this was just a divot, my hands would just slide down it. Because of the fact that it's on the faces, it makes specifically fans really easy because, like I said, you're constantly touching some angle that you can use to generate momentum or switch the direction of your fan or whatever the case may be. And it's kind of awesome. I love it. The other thing that I love is the jimping. The jimping doesn't look like it should be good, but it really is. I find laddering on this thing to be awesome, almost on the level of something like the Thomas Baikal, which in my opinion has also similarly amazing jimping. It really works. It looks like it shouldn't, but I really like it. It goes down long enough. It grips your finger enough. It just works really, really well. Something that I didn't find worked amazing on the Stitch V2. Also, just the look of it. I didn't really like the look of it when I first got it in hand. You know, very minimalistic with this weird, like, scimitar-esque blade. But it's really grown on me, especially now that I know that the balisong flips as well as it does. I like the look of it, the blade, and all of it. The final thing that I see as a positive and a negative is the lack of weight down here at the ends of the handles. Now, when I pick up any other aluminum balisong, something like the Kraken Trainer, you can immediately feel that the Kraken Trainer is more handle biased and carries more momentum. And that's something that you kind of miss when you go back to the gauze. But I think it's also kind of a positive because it's what keeps the balisong so fun to me. Without that lack of momentum, and it's not a huge lack, it's just kind of missing a little something. Without that little bit of extra momentum, this thing fans better than it otherwise would. And I think that's what ultimately makes it such a good balance of consistency and fun. So while I do miss that little bit of momentum when I'm doing more handle biased tricks, throwing it around my fingers, stuff like that, it's something that I'm ultimately glad exists because it keeps the fanning experience relatively intact. And it doesn't really sacrifice a ton in terms of like chaplains or things like that. I can still chaplain it just fine. So overall, I think this is a very successful balisong for what Bandage was going for. Create something that's a little bit less expensive that people can get instead of the Stitch to try out a Bandage product. And it just flips great. I really like how it flips. I've been grabbing this thing whenever possible. I pick it up, I flip it for a while. I just really like it. It's not going to blow your socks off by any means. But this is definitely something that I would pick up to kind of just have on my desk, to have something that was still fun, but allowed me to learn as well because it was consistent. Huge thank you to Bandage for sending this thing out for pass around. I appreciate that you thought of me to include me. And a huge thank you to you guys for watching. I'll see y'all in the next one. Later.